Right, so this question arose last year's conference. I think it was a verbatim comment that Brian received on the survey, if I'm correct with that. We took this away as the IT Leaders Forum, and we formed a working group to look at the question. Is it time to press reset on our IT management methods? And that's the purpose of this event today, to report back to the conference to tell you what we found. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank all of the people that participated in that work, because it was a really interesting task, and the contributions were first rate. I will also mention during this presentation another piece of work which complements our findings. So our world is complex, it's dynamic, it's sometimes ambiguous, unfortunately, and it's not suited to our methods. I've often compared our current methods like driving while we're looking under the bonnet, because we're very focused on process. In fact, our controls are about process. If you look at things like, I'm sorry, I've missed the slide. This is not good, is it? Right, fine, sorry. So this is the first slide. How we manage business technology is going to be our biggest IT leadership challenge yet. And I say that because our success rate associated with current methods is so poor. They're not good enough for our methods aren't good enough for today's world. They're certainly not good enough for a future world where a more immediate response is required, and they don't support automation. So, and if we say automation quite glibly, I guess, but what does the automation of management of business technology look like in the first place? We hear that people are concerned about the pace of change. We hear that they're concerned about the lack of resources. And so automation is going to follow. It would in any other line of work, and so it will in ours. Look at this a bit more closely. Our world is complex, it's dynamic, it's sometimes ambiguous, and it's not suited to our methods. It's a bit like driving a car while you're looking under the bonnet. We're fixated on process. Our control mechanisms are about process. Are we using the right process? You just look at maturity frameworks, MMI, and things like that. We start off by looking at through the windscreen at the start of a journey, and very occasionally we might look through the windscreen at the end of a journey to see if we've arrived in the place we expected to arrive. But really, we're not using the windscreen enough. I think I've really worked on some knowledge as much as I can. So going through that list, although they're often offered as a total methodology, they're mostly just a collection of tools and techniques that don't really fit together too well. And we pick and mix according to our preferences. And our preferences are often based on what we've been schooled in, what we've been taught, what we know, rather than what's appropriate for a particular task. We're encouraged to aggregate requirements around process, business process, or entities. And as a consequence, large and complex systems emerge. We've introduced Agile to cut corners because our methodologies get in the way, frankly. But it's no defense against solutions that are not fit for purpose. We build solutions around what we know. We worry about what we don't know, and then we catch up. And that's not a great storyline. So somehow we've got to change the storyline. And then however we dress it up and however we look at our success rates, the lack of success is caused by uncertainty and dysfunctionality. Uncertainty because what we don't know ultimately comes back to bite us. And dysfunctionality because, frankly, we're not always as good as we think we are. So, and just one word on success rates. I think it was at a NATO conference in 1968 where someone stood up and said, do you know, our success rate is about 35%. And if you look at all of the literature today, and if you do your own analysis, it's still around 35%. So we've gone nowhere since 1968. We've made no improvements, really, in terms of the success rate, at any rate, in over 50 years. So those are the reasons for my concern and most people's concerns. Now, two recent and complementary pieces of work. One is obviously the output from the working group. And what emerged from that working group is 7 principles to guide the pressing of reset on our methods. If you use the QR code on the screen there, you can see there now on the left, then that will take you to the page, the BCS website page, where you'll get the full text of 7 digital principles. I'm not going to go through all of the detail of that today, but I'm going to try to highlight the main points on the next slide. So that's one output. The other piece of work that I'll draw your attention to is a book that's just been published, which researches the problem area, comes up with a new model and a new management philosophy and a conceptual system, which is the implementation of those things. There's another QR code on the right-hand side, and that takes you to the publisher's page for that book. And there's a contents page there that where you can look at the contents of each chapter, or a summary of the contents of each chapter.
David, can I just nip in quickly? Somebody put a question in, 35% success rate. Was that a management projects? We just want clarification on
the way that's, yeah, sure. The way that's worked out is that if you've got 6, let's say 6 objectives that you want to try to achieve with some kind of development, then typically you're only hitting 35% of those business objectives. That's how it's worked out.
Cool, thank you. Okay,
so cost and time are 2 that you usually don't get hit well, and that brings you down to 4. Then it's the others. So that's how it's worked out, and it's fairly consistent. What the publisher is doing at the moment is offering a 20% discount on that book. So there's the ad. And if you use that discount code, when you go to that publisher's site, publisher page, using that QR code and enter that at checkout, you'll get the 20%. So if you take a screenshot of that page, you'll have all that detail to use later. You can go and look at the detail after this conference. So I'm going to move on and just summarize some of the points on both of those 2 pieces of work. Taking the 7 principles, first of all, digital principles, first of all, just go through those one at a time. What we said was we don't just manage change, we respond to it, and service, value and agility are the challenges. Technology, training, ideas, funding and leadership are the enablers. And whether that's business savvy technical leadership or tech savvy business leadership, you can take your choice really, but it's probably hybrid leadership of the enablers. People who can see both sides of the equation, technology and the business, and use that to their advantage, or the advantage of the business. Methods should help us to manage continuous and often transformational change rather than being an obstacle to be overcome. Methods must be suited to today's complex, multi-dimensional, dynamic and dispersed world, and ultimately one where an immediate response is required. So business is getting more demanding, it's getting more complex, and everyone wants the solutions more quickly. Multiple small parallel processes will replace large serial ones, recognizing that even the architectural context can change quickly. And here we're talking about low code or no code type applications. And obviously low code leads to low cost and low risk and quick delivery. So that's the attraction there. Methods should encourage lean budgeting and rapid approval. So if we're working on the delivery side or the analysis on the delivery side, then we also need to work on the admin. And there was a comment that not all organizations can do those things quickly, the budgeting and the rapid approvals. But if that's the case, then the methods must help that part of the process along as well. Because we can't work quickly, respond immediately, and then have to wait for 6 to 12 months for a budget approval. Even when automated, the law will expect forensic accountability for what is delivered, and it must be fit for purpose. The final arbiters of the suitability of what is delivered are the business stakeholders. And whilst most of us think that's pretty obvious, it's not always the case. And the great example, I think, is track and trace, perhaps, where we spent 37 billion. I guess the project sponsor, our program manager, was very happy with the outputs, but probably not the stakeholders. In fact, we know the stakeholders. That's us, weren't. So on to the other side of this. I've just got something in the way here, which I need to try to move. Good. Okay. We're now talking about the book. So in there's a breakthrough model, a new management philosophy, and a solution concept, all of which are provably correct and based on service dominant logic. So just try to break that down a little bit. Most of the traditional management models are based on, management frameworks are based on Plan, Do, Check, Act, PDCA, which is deterministic. So you've got to know what you want before you start the process. Whereas this one is not, it's a new management philosophy based on that model, and it supports both value creation and value delivery. It facilitates the continuous design and redesign of business systems in a complex, dynamic, and sometimes ambiguous world, whilst providing a key control point for the business. The key control point is probably the new bit there, because if we're going to automate at some point in the future, or we're using AI, then we've got to manage the output to make sure that what we've got is what we want and there are no unintended consequences. Also, if we're moving very quickly, we need some point on this model where we've got control of what's going on. It helps us to manage complexity in ways and at speeds that have not previously been possible, whilst providing forensic accountability. So it's one thing to move very quickly, it's something else to make sure that there's an audit trail of what you're doing as you do it. I'll come on to talk about the ways, it refers there to ways in the speeds that have not previously been possible. I might be able to expand on that a little bit later on. It explains something called very agile. Agile is really, agile as we know it today, is a way around the methods we have. And as I said before, it tends to cut corners. Very agile is a way of taking a different view of what needs to be done so that you can get there more quickly. And they're very different approaches. So it introduces the concept of very agile. It introduces something like 6 or 7 AI pathways where more intelligence can be brought to bear on the whole process. And it explores the automation possibilities as well, which are enabled by the model that was introduced from the research. There's a solution concept here, which in the book is called Active Management and Governance. It's a big data solution that builds an enterprise-wide picture of demand and service levels. And then it allows that to be disaggregated so that you can work on continuous change. And there are functions in there for navigation, hindsight, foresight, contagion, and so on. But it allows us essentially to manage all kinds of things which we can't manage at the moment. So if you're concerned about bias or ethics or innovation or collaboration, these things can be managed through this really quite comprehensive framework. And where technology is the way we do business, it will manage not just the technology, but the business itself. And because the whole process is consistent with corporate governance guidelines, it could become a general management and governance framework. Governance at the moment in IT terms is something that again focuses on internal process, which isn't very useful to the business. And so it provides us with this new management philosophy, provides us with very simple alignment and governance rules, and then allow things to be managed very easily. So let's just have a look at what others are saying here. There have actually been quite a number of books that have interested me over recent years, and they've provided great insight into how we might run business. But you stop and think, well, how do we apply those things on an industrial scale? Well, now we've got the solution to that. And if we just go through these one at a time and just expand on a tiny bit. On the Toyota Way, for example, they talk about Genshi Genbutsu, which is Go See. They talk about pull systems, stop and fix. They talk about employee empowerment, the use of visual controls. On wisdom of crowds, James Surowiecki, says that large groups are better than a few experts. Nassim Nicholas Taleb says that what we don't know is far more relevant than what we do know. Daniel Kahneman advocates System 1 and System 2 thinking for managing huge complexity. Eric Rice says that, or advocates continuous deployment based on validated learning.